Welcome to you. Welcome back, Gillian, chaplain and scholar extraordinaire. John, welcome in from Auckland, priest and chaplain from the Diocese of Auckland and from further afield. And Diana Abercrombie, thespian, mother, body piercer, just very typical representative of the Anglican Church. Good to have you on board. And it's an interesting Sunday. We're going to focus on the Magnificat. It's also, for some traditions, the Feast of St. Mary. So lots of thought about Mary and her feistiness, I think, and her remarkable song, at least the song that Luke places in her mouth in the tradition of Hannah. Enough from me. Gillian, would you like to say a little bit about the Magnificat?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And it's good to pick up on that it does echo the words of Hannah from 1 Samuel, chapter 2 with the birth of Samuel. So I think that's quite good to read with it or to have that in the background. But I think too, it's good to remember that of the four Gospels, only Luke and Matthew have birth stories of Jesus. It's I feel like we should be in Advent, but to only have those two Gospels that have the birth stories, and Matthew and Luke are very different to each other in their birth stories as well. And I love how Luke has a focus in his Gospel overall for the sort of a theme, I guess, of universal salvation, unlike Matthew's sort of more focus on the people of Israel, perhaps. And so within that, the lowly, the lost, and the woman. So, of course, in his birth accounts, we have Elizabeth and Mary and all of these beautiful songs, the Hail Mary, the Magnificat. We have lots of other sort of songs too, the Benedictus and the Nunc Dimittis and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing birth narrative that this song fits into.
Okay, and those narratives, and I'll throw it to you, Gillian, again, are very, very challenging, especially this one. Tell me how it challenges you.
Well, for me, I think I find it really challenging when I think of, say, Advent, and we might be doing a nativity story, play perhaps, or for me, I love nativity sets. And Mary is always this kind of meek and mild or quiet kind of mother. And yet, when you read the Magnificat, actually what we've got is like a pregnant protester, waving her banners around about, fill the hungry and down with the rich. And it's quite intensive. And I find that perhaps in our Protestant tradition, how we view Mary and what we do with Mary, or what we've done with Mary, and quietening her and perhaps even silencing her, this is an extraordinary different Mary. And I'd love the challenge of, maybe doing a nativity play with my years 7 and 8s or whatever, where we've got this feisty, protesting Mary rather than just meek and mild and the kind of nice mother figure.
Well, speaking about, not meek or mild, and as far as I know, pregnant, Diana, got to be some challenge for you in reading this passage.
Yeah, there was some challenges in reading it. For me, I think similar to what Gillian was talking about, it's actually just reading it in the right tone, to know that some of the texts and things put through, you have this idea that, it's called a song of praise. And so you sort of think about songs of praise that are meant to be joyous and uplifting and all of these sort of amazing, gentle, I guess, and happy thoughts. Whereas when you start to dive in a bit deeper to it, you realize that actually this is coming from her heart, and it's something that she would have a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear around at that particular point when she's voicing these things that are coming from her. And so to be able to say, actually try and put yourself in sort of that position of her fear and anxiety, and her being as courageous as she is to voice these thoughts in that particular way, despite everything that's going on. I think that maybe we try to take away from the strength and courageousness that she is showing in that particular moment. So absolutely. Yeah.
And later on, we get this little glimpse of her storing up these things in her heart. I find that a powerful image. John, we're the blokes in this conversation, but is it challenging to read Mary?
Well, yeah, I think it is. And I'm so used to in my early days singing beautiful versions of the Magnificat and Evensong at the cathedral in Hobart. And my challenge is to wake up to how radical the message is. And Mary's song was such a threat to the established order. It says, God's going to lift up the lowly and bring you others down. And I suppose the challenge is to realise that I belong to one of those others, I suppose. I'm among the rich and the well-fed. So how can I participate in this? And I try to think about how I can do what I can do for the downcast and those people that Mary would have us, or God would have us help.
And that's a powerful question. If we're not challenged by that, we're kind of tone deaf, I think. So challenges are all very well, but we want some good news here. And Diana, any good news for you?
Yeah, it can be a bit tough when you sort of take that look at it and saying how radical it is, and that focus, I guess, on the poor and the outcast, and you go, where is the good news in all of this? But it's to be reminded that God is a champion of the poor and the oppressed and the despised. And this is good news for us because we know that God's love is never going to be out of reach for us. We can say that actually everyone has value to God. Everybody is important. And so he is willing to give his love freely to anybody who seeks him. And so I think that's pretty good news for us. And also to be reminded that we have a part to play in that as well, that this is something that God has set out, that he is there to help these people in these particular situations. And I think sometimes at different points in our life, we can meet people that are in these situations, if not maybe be in them ourselves. And so it's important that we show the same kindness and care towards these people and the support, living that good Christian life, those good Christian values that is set by God. We use him as our role model in what we do.
And interesting for us as the Anglican Church, who used to be very much the Tory party at prayer, there's some really deep challenges. Not Marxism. There's a different message from what Diana's saying. It's slightly different. Gillian.
Yeah, I found this, I was thinking that this passage is not that good news if you are rich or if you benefit from systems that are oppress others or but it is good news for the poor. And I do find the link with Luke chapter 4, where Jesus, Mary's child, takes that scroll of Isaiah in the synagogue and preaches that, he is to bring good news to the poor. So there is the good news to the poor, to release them from captivity and that sense of freedom. But one of the things I found that was good news in this, really, because we can look at our world and say, it is pretty dire for people, and it is quite overwhelming to think about the poverty and issues that people are facing. But I like the fact that this song is in the past tense. He has done that already. God has, and it's sort of a bit tricky to kind of understand. I would have thought she might be hopeful in saying he will do that in the future, but she uses that prophetic past tense. We're so confident in what God's love for the poor that he almost has already done that. So we can use the past tense, which is I find that hopeful and encouraging.
Well, John, again, we're in a privileged position, partly because of Melbourne, partly because of our Eurocentricity and all those sort of things. Let's have from that perspective some good news.
Well, I think the good news is that God is with us. And as Gillian said, the problems of the world sometimes seem so vast, but we might think, well, we can't tackle them, but God will tackle these things through us. And if we follow God's plan, then these things will be tackled. And I like what Gillian said about the past tense. It made me think again about it because I hadn't thought about that before. Yeah. So God is with us, bringing about amazing change, not through the proud and the mighty, but God puts his money on the Marys, the humble, the faithful, and the lowly ones, and makes them and us all part of a divine mission.
And of course, Paul, sorry to interrupt, but Paul does use that reminder at one stage when he talks about not many of us were highborn, not many of us were, etc. So yes, it's excoriating, if that's a word, but it's not totally condemnatory. Want to talk about, and two of you work with young people specifically, and Diana, you have for much of your life as well. So here we are, and I come back to this time and again, we have this obscene and demonic suicide rate and despair rate in our country. So Diana, I want to find a so what. What can we do? How can we convey this message of Mary?
I think at the heart of it, really, that it's a message of hope. And I think sometimes that's really what our young people are needing at the moment is hope. The world is a tough place, and when you have so many things that feel like are being pushed against you as a young person, that you feel like every time you're trying to, climb and get one step ahead, you go three back. So it's really difficult for our young people at the moment to see that hope, to see through maybe the clouds of depression or whatever is going on in their home lives, all sorts of things. And so if they are not getting hope, in some of these places where you would expect at home with family or at school, wherever, then we need to be that hope for them. We need to show them that there is hope, and that hope is God. And to be able to say, you're not alone. You have somebody to listen to you at any time that you need it, to actually be there. But that is a challenge for us as well, because we need to have enough faith in portraying that message of hope to actually be a driving force of it, to take that action, to do that, to be that support there as well.
And it can't be empty words. John, not just pie in the sky. How do we embody that hope in your?
I think by being hopeful people ourselves, not giving in to the despair of the world. I think young people are always after models of hope, like we've just been through the Olympics, and there are so many to choose from there. It's good to have Mary as a person of courage and conviction and hope, and to kind of hold on to these kind of people and their example, and saying we can be examples of hope to other people too. Just don't give in.
One of the tricky things about the Olympics, just before I throw to you, Gillian, is that we've just seen tragically the death of 5 young people in Timaru, also of a New Zealand cyclist, up and coming, quite a remarkable cyclist. So the highs and the lows of youth life, and indeed of any life, we certainly need to embody and be there, to pick up Diana's words, for them as you've practiced in ministries. Gillian, how do we represent and embody hope? That's our so what today.
First of all, who inspires us? And sometimes for young women like whom I work with, it might be the celebrities, the Kardashians, the, ridiculously thin type celebrity figures. And yet, here's Mary, who can be an inspirational role model for them in terms of, more like the Greta Thunbergs of the world, someone who's actually wanting to see change and work for justice, and to perhaps move towards more role models that are, contributing to the world and making a difference, so that there's some substance there, which I think can lead to help. And for those students who perhaps, really do come from that place of privilege, to be able to look outward and to be able to do what they can to help others in community through Anglican Family Care or overseas, 40-hour famine, whatever it is, and that can help give themselves a sense of purpose and hope for the future too.
And we have a Greta Thunberg, we have Malala Yousafzai. We have some remarkable young people coming through in this generation who I think really inspire us all, regardless of our gender and our age. So Diana, Gillian, John, it's been good to to break open this, I think, quite challenging, one of the most challenging scriptures. And thank God for Mary and for all that she poses to us. Thanks for being a part of this, and look forward to hopefully catching up with all of you again. Thank you very much.